Hello everyone and welcome back for another Miss Ink Stamps video. This is Cassie. I am so excited to be here. Today I'm going to be using this newer set called Boo Sheet and I can't help but chuckle every time I see it because I think this set is fabulous. We're also going to be using the Halloween Mandala stencil. This is so pretty and I love all the detail to it. We're also going to be using the Starry Night stencil, and then I do have an embossed circle window Slimline die. Let's go ahead and get started with our background first. I have some watercolor cardstock that I've cut down to 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches, which is about the size of a slimline, the ones I like to do. I'm putting this in my splatter box, and then I've grabbed out the Halloween Mandala stencil, and I am spritzing some Distress spray stain in the color Wilted Violet. And I did it on the two corners there. I let that dry, then I ran that through my die cutting machine with the embossed circle windows. And now I want to add a little bit of distress ink to this. So I'm going to pull out my tea dye distress ink and I'm going to blend that just on those edges. So tea dye is really great because it has a little bit of an orangey tint to it and it really does make things look a little bit aged. So add it to this purple and wow, it's so cool. And it does give that really good Halloween feel, which is something I really love. So I'm just going to blend that all around all the edges and also in the circles as well, so that it'll get those edges nice and distressed looking. So cool. After we're done with that, we're going to bring in that Starry Night stencil, and I'm going to bring in some Nuvo Glacier paste in the color Golden Era. This stuff is super creamy, and so I want to make sure that my stencil stays put. I'm going to tape that down, and then I'm going to grab out a palette knife and just spread that all over those stars right where that is going to come in contact with that paper. Like I said, this stuff is super creamy. You'll notice I did use some of that Post-it tape on that far right hand edge because this is obviously a standard size 6x6 stencil, but we're doing a slimline. So I'm trying to, well, I'll clean up my mess first, but I want this stencil to go all the way across the front of this panel. So I'm going to be super careful so I don't smudge any of the stars I've already done. I'll move my tape to that right hand side where I didn't use the stencil already before. And then I'm just going to take that stencil and be very careful to line it up just kind of where it's going to, make this stencil look like it's a little bit continuous. And then I'll take the leftover Glacier paste and I will wipe it, being super careful not to go past the stencil. And then we'll put the rest back into our little pot and close it up. I'll peel away that stencil and then you can see how good this worked. This is one of those stencils that's perfect for something like this. And it's great. So now I've used those two stencils. I'll show you up close how this looks. I love it. I love how these combine on top of each other. Super fun. And we're going to set that off to the side to dry while we do our stamping. So as I said, this stamp set is called Boo Sheet. Try to say that without chuckling. And I'm going to put my images onto some Express It cardstock, and then I'm going to ink this up with some Blackout ink by Ink on 3. I'll stamp that down. And yeah, love those little ghost images. And our coloring is going to be fairly simple. I am going to start with my darker shade. That is not typically how I color. Typically I color lightest to darkest, but in this case, for whatever reason, when I use grays, I go dark to light. So I've put down my W3. I wanted to use a little bit warmer tones. And then I'm going to come in with my W1 and blend that out a little bit. Just a little. And then we'll do the same thing for our other little ghost. And then blend that out again. Like I said, this set is fabulous, obviously for Halloween, but if you read those sentiments, so many of them are so good for so many occasions that I feel like this set just has so much longevity. I am definitely going to be using this set for all kinds of occasions. It's just so much fun. I did stamp out the Boo balloon along with our little jack-o'-lantern like candy bucket. So I'll color with some purples on the word Boo, and I'm starting with some V17. And that's fairly dark, but I'm going to come in with some V09 and just add a little bit of shadowing. And I won't blend that out because I really do like how harsh that is. For our little jack-o'-lantern, our colors are YR24, those have become my like go-tos for pumpkins lately. And then I'll bring in some YR27. I will bring in that YR24 again and blend that out a little bit. And then we have to bring in some yellow for the inside, so we've got Y18. And then I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut everything out. Our card base is going to be some of this dark cardstock, this dark purple cardstock that I had in my stash. I originally cut down 4 inches and then cut off another 1/2 inch. I'm going to use that for my sentiment later. And then my base was 7 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 3.5 inches. I was going to use that purple panel that you see underneath my scoreboard, but I end up not using it. And before I go any further, I do need to stamp on the inside. I love doing that for my cards. If you've never seen me create before, I love doing that. So I'm going to bring in another little ghost and our sentiment. We're going to put that in that lower left-hand side, close the door of our Misty, and then I'm going to pull in a magic powder bag because I want to do some embossing on this. And I'll pull out some juicy embossing ink and we'll stamp down our ghost. And then we'll pull those off fairly quickly because I do want to put something in our little ghost's hand. I'm going to put a sucker in his hand. So I'm not going to put powder on it yet. This will stay wet for a little bit. And then I'll ink up part of that lollipop to make it look like he's holding it. And then now I'll cover all that with my white embossing powder. I have a few stray bits that are bugging me, so I'll wipe that away with a dry paintbrush, and then the rest just don't bother me. So now we're going to heat set that till that is smooth and melted, and you'll know that it is because it'll go from a matte finish to a shiny finish, and you'll be ready to go. Now you'll notice there is some residue, but I'm not worried about that. You can wipe that away. Now I'll stamp out my sentiment for the front of my card. Same whole process that we did before. And again with the residue, but I'm letting everything dry, or cool down a little bit, and then I'll bring in my microfiber cloth and I'll wipe away any of that excess residue. And she's all good to go. I'll reinforce that score line and then we can start attaching our pieces to our base. So I'll just go right to the card base using a little bit of liquid glue on my panel. You could pop this up with some foam tape if you wanted, really go to town with that, but I just decided to make this a little bit more lower profile. So now once I've decided where my little ghosts are going to go, I'll start gluing them down as well. And then we do have our boo and our candy bucket. So I'm going to have our little center ghost holding both of those. These ghosts are, and you know what, they're easy to color. Talk about coming up with some quick cards, I'll tell you. And then he'll be holding his little boo balloon. And now I have to cut down my sentiment strip, so I'm just going to put a little flag banner in each of those ends. And yes, it's not perfect, but I don't care. I'm happy with this. I love it. So I'll glue that down as well. And then once that's on there, that's actually going to finish off our card for today. So I love it. I hope you do too. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Miss Ink Stamps has going on. Have a great day.